Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, several international organizations and media outlets keep on uncovering the truth behind India's fake democracy, nefarious, hegemonic expansionist plans in the region, especially against Pakistan. From the blatant human rights violations in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to the sham elections and political repression, continuous breach of international law, United Nations Charter and the United Nations Security Council resolutions. We will also today look into the Indian global terrorism and its killing spree in the world, especially in Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States and in Pakistan. Using terrorism or killing at foreign soil as a tool of its foreign policy. India's true face is already revealed by many countries across the world. We will try to delve into India's conspiracies against Pakistan and Kashmiris, its jingoistic and warmongering rhetoric, and its dangerous nuclear ambitions, missile developments, and arms race in the region. We will also try to look into the Indian extremist Hindutva ideology, its plans to shift India to Bharat, and its notions of Hindu Rashtra and Akhand Bharat. Today, on this important topic related to the regional security, peace and development, we will talk on this topic. We have in our studio, we have guests Tanveer Sultan Awan Sahib. He is the geopolitical analyst. Along with him, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid. He is the strategic affairs expert. Most welcome to you both. Thank you very much for your arrival in the studio. Thank you very much, sir. And online joining us, Brigadier retired Ghazanfar Ali Shah. He is the senior defense analyst. Most welcome to you, Brigadier Sahib. Thank you. Brigadier Sahib, my first question is to you that with the extremist Hindutva ideology and fake notions of making India a Hindu Rashtra or a regional Akhand Bharat or based on region, Modi regime is actually playing with volcano, and it's similarly visible in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, especially during the current elections. How do you see this whole ambit?
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You are dwelling onto the topic, which is really a threat in the region. And it has to be studied very closely, not by Pakistan, but by the other region of the countries also, because whatever India is doing, it's going to cause problems and it's going to cause tensions in whole of the region. We are already a very less developed region, and you know the amount of the state of the health and state of the education in South Asia and regions surrounding it. And the role of India in all these things, to the extreme which you have pointed out, is not causing aspersion inside India, is not causing tensions inside India, but I said it's going across the border. And it's basically it's a mindset, I would say. I've already said that whenever you will relate your politics with religion or with the race, so the end result is a complete disaster. It may be a disaster for that own country, as you witnessed in Italy and Germany, where they mixed their race with their politics and then imposed war in whole of the world. And what happened that in Germany got divided into two. You remember the state of Italy and the other countries also. So this is the same thing, same analogy which you can apply on India today. That India is mixing their internal and external politics with high-handed religious fanaticism. It's not the religious indoctrination, it's religious fanaticism. And whenever you go fanatics, then you produce people like Hitler, then you produce people like Mussolini. And the same thing you can witness in India also. As you pointed out the Hindutva ideology, what does the Hindutva say? It is not today, it was 1928, it was written very categorically that anybody who is living in India will have to be converted into Hindus, otherwise you leave India. So that philosophy is being implemented by fascists like Narendra Modi and Amit Shah and all his colleagues. And you can see the result of that, that there are problems going on inside India in connection not only to the minority, but in a very big population status, Muslims and Sikhs. They are not there. And as per the Indian constitution,
Obviously,
you are aware.
you are absolutely right, Brigadier sir. Definitely, you are right. Tanveer sir, when we are talking about the current regime in India, so what's your thought on Modi's declaration of Jammu and Kashmir People's Freedom League, 4 factions of the Jammu and Kashmir People's League, and as unlawful associations? They notified 14 of the Kashmiri political parties outlawed when their affiliates are facing forced persecutions under the draconian black laws, and their assets are already confiscated. So what kind of election that is going on? And in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where according to the United Nations, this is the disputed territory, that is that India whatsoever they do, but that is not the territory belongs to India.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Mr. Faisal. Thank you very much for having me over again. Okay, to answer your question, it's very simple. You know, Kashmir is a faction of that Hindutva policy, Akhand Bharat. Like Brigadier Sahib said, it is stretching now beyond the borders of India.
Yes.
Almost starting from Afghanistan, according to Akhand Bharat, it claims for Kabul, and all the way going towards Bangladesh. So Kashmir is one segment of that whole philosophy, and of course the atrocities which they are carrying on. And it happens to be so that because of the global political dynamics, especially in the Indo-Pacific, and China emerging as one of the biggest economic and you can say global threat to rest of the world, or towards the West you can say, or to the US, India is a direct beneficiary of that situation. So because of that, their geostrategic importance, all that is being overshadowed. And the West and the world is quite about, like the atrocities which they have carried out in Kashmir, by any standards of human rights violation, but India is not being denounced anywhere because of their global interest. And India, now it's something very interesting. Now if you follow, generally when you ever follow an ethnic approach, that means that you are segmenting yourself from that system. Now let's see your first question, that what happens the result of this election. If third time Mr. Modi gets elected, then it means that overwhelmingly this is the Hindutva philosophy is acceptable by the Indians, which is very dangerous for the region.
Means they are ready to have Hindu Rashtra, and then they are ready to launch their Akhand Bharat philosophy, whatever that is.
They don't mince any word about it. I mean, you see the interview of Indian Mr. Rajnath Singh, their Minister Interior, blatantly he said only all Hindus are equal. Anybody other than Hindu is not even considered in that category. They are very blatant and very explicit about it. So they don't mince any words about it. So their policy is very clear. One should not be mistaken about it.
Your point well taken. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid sir, how do you analyze the Indian attempts to crush dissent in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, contrary to the international human rights and humanitarian laws, as well as the democratic norms, what they are actually perpetuating from the last many years, and whatever the fake democracy that is prevailing in India, particularly in the garb of Modi regime?
I think there is a lot of oppression that is undergoing in Indian occupied Kashmir, especially in the backdrop of these forthcoming elections that are taking place. These are the first such elections that are taking place after the revoking of 370 article.
Yeah.
So they
35A
and they think that it is very crucial for them. And you yourself have mentioned very correct things, that they have banned, outlawed the party political representation. So they are suffocating the political representation of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And also, as per the Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch and the Office of the United Nations Commissioner on Human Rights, who are watching, because this is they are very replete with the facts and findings that what is going on in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The curfews even the peaceful demonstrations are handled by their armed forces. The social media blockade occurs off and on, and also these kind of things that they are being suppressed to the core, that they don't probably have the right to exist as a community, the Kashmiri community, and this is what is happening. And I just want to add that it is international community. As far as international community is concerned, I feel at times encouraged to see that at least the organizations that look after the human rights at the international level, they are aware, and they give the reports, and they express their kind of concerns, which is, I mean, no government, whether it is, or no country, whether it is India or Israel, can afford these kind of reports, negative kind of report. Negative means not negative from that sense, but negative from the point of view of the human rights. Whatever they are saying is actually happening, and it is the conditions of the people in Jammu and Kashmir is actually very oppressive, very
well described. Well described. Brigadier Ghazanfar, why United Nations and other international organizations are completely mum on India's artificial electoral political atmosphere? It's kind of one-sided, illegal, fraudulent elections and manipulated polling in the military besieged, illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and many of them are suffocated over there when it comes to, because most of the political leadership of the Jammu and Kashmir are incarcerated.
Actually, the attitude of the world towards India, you have witnessed in the past, and when we see the attitude of the Western part, basically the policies and the attitude of the Americans, which sits with India in different regimes, whether it was the Bush regime, whether it was the Obama regime, whether it was the Clinton regime, whether it was the Trump regime. India is a very big market, and the world somehow or the other does not go on morality, neither the world goes on legal binding. Had the world gone on legal binding, then 40,000 innocent civilians, including the children, women and poor people, would have not died in Gaza. And day before yesterday, Israel Netanyahu, who is a criminal, who is a warmonger, who is a war criminal, he carried out an attack on a camp, on a tent, where you see the blood of the innocent children and the parts of their bodies were lying anywhere. International criminal courts, people go to declare him as a war criminal. The American congressmen come onto the TV and say...
Definitely, but both India and Israel are actually following their footsteps, each other's footstep, and unfortunately that is the same dilemma going on there in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Your point well taken. Tanveer sahab, why world is not reacting towards Israel like Narendra Modi-led Indian government's deceitful and nefarious tactics of misleading the international community about the prevailing dangerous situation, conceal the relentless oppression and the bloodshed and atrocities by scapegoating Pakistan and Kashmiri leadership equally?
It's very simple. Like I hinted earlier in my first conversation with you, the growth and the threat of the China to rest of the, I shouldn't say rest of the world, towards US and the West. That is a matter of grave concern for US and the West. To contain that or to counterbalance that, India becomes very important for them. Not only geographically by itself as a country where it's neighboring borders with China, but also in the Indo-Pacific. The trade, for example, the trade from the Red China Sea is over $4 trillion if you put all Japan and Chinese trade, all that together. The various agreements like AUKUS and Indo-Pacific Rim, the whole region. I mean, India has been declared as a strategic partner of US. The US Secretary of Defense visit Mr. Arnold, they made two
means that's why the terminology which was earlier might be Asia Pacific,
yeah,
now it's Indo-Pacific.
It's Indo-Pacific. All this matters. This is very.
So it means that only India and the Pacific matters, and the rest of the regions are not.
Precisely. India is their ally, most important ally, and further to this, complemented by the economic interest, like Brigadier have said. The economic interest itself, though that may be secondary, that precedes, But eventually, when you put all this together, imagine the corporations who have their interests. These corporations, they have lobby on their political legislators. They prevail. So that itself becomes a pressure block by itself.
Obviously,
so India is very, you can say, in a very advantageous position from that point of view. Since your question is specific to that, it doesn't mean that Pakistan loses its importance, but since that's not your question,
No.
I'll
It's not about Pakistan's importance. That Pakistan importance is already there, whether it's geopolitical, whether it's geo-economic or geostrategic.
Exactly.
That is there. But the problem is that whatever is happening in the Indian Ocean or overall in the region, particularly because of the dominance of the Indians. So that's why that is very pertinent that you have elaborated about the West's interest as Indian market and even in the region. Right. And definitely, you are absolutely right. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid sahab, do you agree that what the international community's behavior shows, since decades India had been given a sole right to violate international law? Bilateral agreements, United Nations Security Council resolutions about Kashmir and rule arbitrarily. While Kashmiris want only their just right of self-determination, that was envisaged by the United Nations Security Council resolutions. And they don't want any sort of a settlers colonialism. So how do you respond to this one?
I think international politics is very complex.
It is.
Whereas I fully agree with Sir Tanveer that West is wholeheartedly supporting India for its own interests and all that, given that India might have certain advantages as international actor or something. But paradoxically what happens is that the same interest actually gets back. If India behaves irrationally with its neighbors and all that, and it creates, it extends risks into the area. So for the purpose for which they are supporting India, actually backfires automatically. The region becomes risky, dangerous, and never mind, it is an atomic kind of, an area where there are atomic weapon states that reside over here, and they are neighbors to one another. India's, this high-handed treatment of the international commitments and the treaties, and most importantly in case of Jammu and Kashmir, which is internationally and globally recognized as a disputed area, and also India's behavior with its neighboring countries is actually infusing risks, and they are ultimately, what risk would they escalate to? The level of nuclear risks. So this is, I think international community should understand. Often it happens that you support a country, you make it, you strengthen it and all that for your own reasons, but ultimately it gets back onto you. And the very reason for which the West is supporting India will be actually negated by India's behavior and making this region, war prone or risk prone.
Your point well taken. Brigadier Ghazanfar sahab, do you think that after India's blatant occupation and atrocities going on in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, now trying to conspire with the other regions adjacent to the Indian de facto border like LOC, like Azad Kashmir or Gilgit-Baltistan, because we have seen earlier some sort of interferences from India to erupt violence somewhere, because we have witnessed recently Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's statement that he says that India does not need to use force in Azad Kashmir. People there themselves demanding separation and integration with India, and the process already begun. While Indian Home Minister Amit Shah says, he claimed actually that Azad Kashmir was a part of India. So when they are talking about from the last many years, they were talking about that India illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and whole of the Kashmir including Gilgit-Baltistan is the part and parcel of India. Pakistan is always negating it. Pakistan is always stressing upon to resolve this Kashmir issue. But what's actually right now, what's the reason behind these perpetuated statements coming straight away, one after another?
Faisal, there are many things to it, which probably we cannot close in a very limited section. But just to say it very briefly, there is a level of statesmanship, there is a level of leaders. I'm sorry to say, India may be going into 675 billion economy, but the statesmanship and the level of leadership, which if you want to count, you can see the personality, profile and behavior, conduct and straightforwardness of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was one person whom you call that he had that statesmanship. But contrary to till 1947 till today, if you see in India, I don't see a leader of that stature, that caliber, that vision. Nehru in those days was a leader, but you know, Nehru blackmailed Pakistan by having his relationship with Edwina Mountbatten, from which he took, because of which, with Mountbatten conspiracy, he took over the Firozpur and Gurdaspur from Pakistan, which was given to Pakistan by way of the demographic structure. The Indian did not have that stature of leadership, and today I have no hesitation in saying that today the level of leadership, whether Rajnath Singh, whether Narendra Modi or Amit Shah or anybody, they are a street level leader. They are not a state level leader. They give cheap statements. I mean, Narendra Modi gave a statement day before yesterday कि हम अंदर जाके मारेंगे. Has he forgotten that what did Pakistan do in Balakot? We went inside, shot 2 aircrafts, they shot their own helicopter, and he is so, I mean, I would say, I would not use an unparliamentary word, but he is so liar that he does not remember that treatment. So if a leader does not remember that type of a treatment, what statement will he give? Then they
You
use
are absolutely right that if the Indian armed forces and their defense system don't segregate or identify the bogey and their own Mi-17 helicopters, so how they can even defend their territories?
Sorry, it is not the Indian defense system. Indian defense system reacts or acts on the direction of Narendra Modi, where is whatever direction he gives. He does not see the vision. He does not have a vision in that. They basically, you have to see that they are only using Pakistan and building up their election campaign. They are using Muslims for their building up election campaign. Their narratives have changed in 7 phases of election. So you
Yes,
can't
it is. You are absolutely right. Might be because that Narendra Modi is now sensing his defeat, or whatever he was claiming, actually the 3/4 of the seats, though here he is sensing that that is not there for him. So your point well taken. Tanveer sir, how do you see the killing spree of Modi regime using Indian intelligence in other countries, soil like Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, and even in Pakistan by international community? But international community has taken no action, unfortunately. No accountability, no stern action against Delhi, including the West, which is very much propagating about the human rights, and their own citizens got killed, but they have not taken any action.
They're absolutely ruthless. There's no, you're referring to Hardeep Singh, the Canadian
Yes,
over there.
yes.
I mean, look at the Canadian government reaction. They had withdrawn all their diplomats from, I mean, that was a very strong message. But irrespective, that's why I said in my earlier statement that the Hindutva policy being executed through RSS and now their political arm, BJP, they're very clear about it. It's absolutely irrespective. They'll go ahead with it. They don't care what the world says or anyone else says. And especially when it comes to Pakistan, they have not accepted us right from day first. I mean, anything and everything they would do to harm and damage Pakistan, be it BL, Balochistan liberation, or kind of availing the opportunity of our shortfalls in Kashmir. You see, but I'll just refer towards one very important aspect. Now, when it comes towards Pakistan and India, okay, India is a matter of very serious concern for us. But I tell you, Mr. Faisal, the major problem is our own, we have to put our house in order. Our problem is in-house more than what India's intentions are very obvious. We have
and those are from the day one.
right from day one. I mean, there's no two opinions about it. Right from day one. I mean, maybe officially we are a recognized country before United Nations, but before India, even today, when they start the Lok Sabha, I'm not talking of BJP. I'm talking earlier even.
And it is very obvious that because the threat is imminent and from the last 75, 76 years, so whole of the nation is actually ready to defend this country and particularly to face any sort of threat from India.
Yes.
But the thing is, you are absolutely right that we have to put our house in order.
Yes,
that is very important.
Indian intentions, for example, even before the BJP government, the Lok Sabha last would start with Akhand Bharat. I mean, this philosophy deep into maybe Congress was more. You can say they had disguised this expression, but they meant the same.
Obviously.
I mean, this is where Pakistan, the story of Pakistan had begun. Mr. Jinnah sensed it very well deep inside the Hindu mentality, and that is very demanded for the separate Muslim state. To
Definitely, he sensed it very long decades ago, so he knows very well on that account particularly. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid, Indian intelligence officials confirmed during their conversations with several foreign media outlets that they carried out assassinations in Pakistan and involved in at least 20 murders since 2020. While Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh again confirmed that his government's policy of killing their rivals and their wanteds at the foreign soil. How do you see it?
I think I would refer to Indians' involvement in killing in Canada and attempted murders in United States and UK, etc. So from the international level, they have come down to particularly Pakistan, and they have assassinated their so-called political targets inside Pakistan. Again, a gross violation of international law, and this is not how the states behave. This is just trying to increase.
What happened if
the
any
tension.
other state other than India do the same in Western countries or any other country?
Yeah, even if India did that, as was described by Sir Tanveer, very strong reaction came from Canada, United States, and other countries also. So countries are sovereign. And it is antithesis of being a state that its sovereignty is violated. So this is kind of violation of the sovereignty of Pakistan, and Pakistan has the right. We do not have to wait for the international community to respond to it. We should have
to do something on that.
We have our own internal strengths as a state, and we are fully entitled to take the actions and the courses in the international fora and in the diplomatic channels that we have. But we should not let it go. The mere acceptance of this fact by the Indian leadership gives us enough proof that they have done it, and we should do everything, including reciprocity. International relations, they stand on the principle of reciprocity.
Obviously,
if they have done it in Pakistan, inside Pakistan, well, we must do everything to do the same to them inside India.
At least to defend our country, at least to defend our soil.
This is how the international
lots of
relations
people
go.
are wanted, and they have taken refuge in India, and
Yeah.
or on behalf of India in any third country.
That's
so
true.
Pakistan has the right to do that. Brigadier Ghazanfar, what your thoughts on Indian global terrorism, which is on rise with every passing moment, as Modi government using terrorism as a tool of its foreign policy and think that it's her sole right to terrorize the regions to advance its hegemonic designs and approach?
It's basically for two reasons I perceive it that way. First is Israel, American CIA and Mossad attitude. They undertake extrajudicial killing and they go outside their borders to kill people. Like Iran, recently, the killing of the Iranian president. I do not exclude the role of Mossad into the shahadat of Irani president. Then, other than that, they killed two scientists about a year back. Then General Qasmi, and then attack on the Iranian embassy in Baghdad, which they undertook. What is all that? And this is, if I go into the details of the Mossad operation or CIA operation, it will run into a number of pages. Taking precedent from that, and since the world did not speak, I said Israel has killed 40,000 people. It's only ICJ and South Africa and ICC which is speaking. World has not spoken. Americans are still giving money to weapons to Israelis. France is still giving weapons to Israeli. Germany is giving weapons to Israel. They have not spoken. So, country like India, where I already told you they have a lack of a world leader. They have a street type of leader. So they will take lead from those things. And RAW has been in very close association, not from today, but L.K. Advani's time. They have been very close to each other, and they have been visiting each other. The Mossad has been training RAW for a number of years.
Brigadier Ghazanfar Sahab, whatever the leadership is existing right now in Delhi, ultimately the regional peace is actually at stake. The overall ambit in the strategic ham is actually going nowhere but towards destruction. So when we are talking about Hindu Rashtra or the so-called fake notions of Akhand Bharat, it means whatever the leadership would be. But if such a leadership or such a people who are there in India, they are thinking about destructive path. So how to counter? Because it is not the only threat to Pakistan but to the whole region. So world must think about it.
The world will think later. Pakistan must think about it, and the question has been given, the answer has been given before this by one of your renowned speakers. And he said that we must also do the same which India is doing to Pakistan. You see, nobody in the world respects a defensive strategy. It has to be a proactive strategy. If you undertake a proactive strategy, can force your enemy to come to your terms. And basically, whenever they take a security environment, the first thing which is done in that is the threat perception. That what is the threat which is existing across your border or inside your border. So once you take a threat
you are talking about the threat perception. So Indian PM Modi, who is running for a third term as a Prime Minister in these current elections, during an election rally speech, he categorically stated that today's India goes inside enemy's territory to strike, as you have rightly mentioned about it. So what it means, because he is always directing each and everything towards Pakistan basically.
It means two things. One is, I said, the rhetoric which he is very expert in giving. Second is the fake drama. Like you see, he staged a fake drama of one is the actual drama which was in Balakot when they killed two Kawas, and the other is when they said that we have taken the strategy strikes inside Pakistan, and they, like Hillary Clinton, he sat with his interior minister and said we have undertaken the operation inside. But that was not possible. You cannot undertake operation like that. That was a complete lie. The strategy and the policy and the tactics doesn't say that you take the introductive operation in Pakistan without crossing the internal Pakistan border. Pakistan has to, you see, I will just give an example. The Indian came with the Cold Start doctrine. When Cold Start doctrine came into being, what Pakistan did? Pakistan revised its strategy. We even went on to build the short-range nuclear weapons, because said if you come inside us, we will use the short-range missiles and short-range weapons. So Pakistan undertook its own strategy, which is under the arena of pre-active operation strategy, which is called as PAOS. So Pakistan has to build a strategy, and it has to be a proactive strategy, whether it relates to killing inside Pakistan, whether it relates to attack on Pakistan border, whether it is related to verbal threats or anything. The problem with Pakistan, the problem with our leadership, which I have seen over a period of years, even if you say take the Musharraf time, we do not name the enemy. When Pakistan had this terrorism inside Pakistan, and it was designated or orchestrated from India, we used to say there is a neighbor country which is doing, ek hamsaya mulk hai jo ye kaam kar raha hai. It doesn't happen like this. You have to say that India is doing this thing, and today we are saying that India is doing this thing.
Sir, you are absolutely right, but Pakistan has clearly given lots of dossiers on Indian involvement through the third country into Pakistan, inflicting terrorism, and given lots of solid evidences at which even presented to the United Nations, their United Nations Secretary General, to Brussels, to European Union and all that. So I think so that Pakistan was very clear on that aspect, and we have given lots of proofs to the world. It's another story that if world is not reacting on that. Your point well taken. Dr. Ghulam, yes, please.
Those dossiers have not been followed up. Once you deposit the dossier, they have to be pursued. They have to be tracked. They have to be traced.
Definitely. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid Sahab, what do you think about the Modi's jingoism, warmongering and adventurism, as sometimes he threatened to use the nuclear weapons against Pakistan, and just during election meeting he directly referred in his remarks about Pakistan's nuclear capabilities, said that he would make Pakistan wear Bengals.
Okay, I would refer to the earlier part of the discussion where, in the early 60s and 70s, we had world-class leaders and statesmen. And unfortunately, what happened over a period of time, now we have not the statements in the whole, most of the globe, but the pygmies sitting over there. And more so in case of India, where they are not, statesmen and leaders of the nation. They are just, small little opportunists who come and use everything and anything to remain in power. So this rhetoric of Narendra Modi must be taken in that sense. Nuclear weapons are no bangles, and Indians very well know it. And Pakistan is wearing nuclear weapons, and they are no bangles. They have as much of destructive power as any weapon that India has, or if not more. So I think it is just very ordinary to say these things by a leader of a
nation.
If in
Pokhran that was not the Buddha, then whatever was there in Chagi was not the Bengal.
No, they were not. Pakistan has nuclear weapons, and we are wearing that, and we'll wear it to look beautiful and strong, and we will use it once there is a need for us to do that. So, and everybody knows that. Once you have the nuclear weapons have their own rationale and logic that is understood by the opposing party as clearly as the ones who possess
But obviously
them.
Pakistan loves peace and humanity, and that's why we always discourage using weapons against any country. But the thing is that when it comes to defend your territory, obviously there would be no other option. Tanveer sahab, when we are talking about, is it correct that nuclearization, the missile development and the arms race which is going on in South Asia by India particularly. So now the dangerous tool in the hands of some extremists, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. So through an ideological shift from India to Bharat, has far-reaching ramifications when India has lots of sophisticated weapons but in the hands of extremists, terrorists. So at regional and global levels, do you think that it is going to be disastrous?
You see, to make a simple answer to your concern, Faisal, India must behave like a responsible nuclear state. Of course, the potential of threat or the potential of destabilization in the region, where the two neighboring nuclear countries in the same region are capable of, unfortunately, of any such misadventure. So India has to react. Pakistan's policy is very clear. We shall only, in case, if we are threatened, then of course every country has a right to defend itself to whatever extent one has to go. To addressing the same aspect, the message to India is very clear. Pakistan must always speak from the point of strength. And Pakistan's strength is so obvious just by Indian elections. Has Indian politics ever been discussed in our elections?
Never
so
ever.
This is where India stands as far as Pakistan is concerned. Whereas in Indian election, their theme is based on Pakistan. So this is a compliment to Pakistan, that how much we matter to them, or either we creep under their skin or they are so much scared about Pakistan. But end of the day, the point line is, as already answered by Dr. Air Commodore Mujaddid, we are not wearing bangles. You have your defense capability to defend yourself. And should there not be ever, but should it ever be, then what is this capability there for? So India should be duly cognizant of this fact that no, there should not. This Pulwama incident should be a sample for India to study a small sample that, God forbid, in case if they intend to make any larger...
This is a very
misadventure-
clear, transparent
very clear.
and intense case study
Yeah.
for India.
Yes.
That how Pakistan
That
reacted to what
yes.
India has
no matter,
tried to.
Because unfortunately, because of our internal differences, at times our enemies, they think they can make advantage of that. It shall be known very clearly when it comes to any aggressor, Pakistan
Obviously.
stands one as one country, as one nation.
Your point well taken, Tanveer sir. Thank you very much. So nice of you. Thanks for your arrival here. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid sir, for being here in the studios. Thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Ghazanfar sahab. Thank you very much for your candid views and very well elaborated, sir. Thank you. So nice of you. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, it is important that India's notion of Akhand Bharat is a real threat to whole region. Pakistan is always prepared to any sort of a threat coming from India. Even in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, complete political suffocation is over there, and India is making all-out war crimes and atrocities following the footsteps of Israel, unfortunately. Indian leadership is not to have such stature, but who can think about the out-of-the-box solutions? But the thing is that whatever the threat is coming from India has a repercussions in the region, and we whole of the region has to prepare for that, and world must have to react on that, particularly the United Nations and all other international bodies. India is actually trying to be a hegemon and try to attain the piles of the arms and missiles and the nuclearization of Indian Ocean along with the whatever is happening with its military and along with the Pakistani border. But Pakistani forces are always ready to defend its motherland, and we are also attaining such weapons which at least create a balance of power in the region. The region is endangered to have a nuclear clash, and world must have to react on that. India's killing spree across the region, particularly in Pakistan, in United Kingdom, in United States and in Canada, is really a worrisome game. And I think so at that point in time, international organizations, humanitarian organizations and all others must have to react. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.